Proverbs 23, 1-6. When thou sittest to eat with a ruler, consider diligently what is before thee, and put a knife to thy throat if thou be a man given to appetite. Essentially saying, if this person has a lot of things that you might desire or want, contain yourself and really consider what is before you. It's not what it seems to be. Be not desirous of his dainties, for they are deceitful meat. Labor not to be rich. Cease from thine own wisdom. Wilt thou set thine eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away as an eagle toward heaven. Eat thou not the bread of him that hath an evil eye, neither desire thou his dainty meats. I watched a video recently, and it was about this super wealthy financial guy. He was talking about the fact that he doesn't work for money because he gets more camaraderie from working and doing a physical action itself rather than working for money. I understand what he's saying because we're made in the image of God. We're made to worship him. So that means that we're made to do things. We're meant to be in motion, to be doing something, to be accomplishing something. So I understand that. But the one thing that is always hard for me to understand is how so many people place so much emphasis on money. When I look around and see how much people worship money, it's actually surprising. I don't have social media, but I have WhatsApp, and a lot of friends and family will post status and say things like, I just need money. I just want money. Wish I had more money. I'm just trying to think of what they would say. That's why I'm just pausing in between. But they say things like that. And people talk about money as if it is the end all be all in life. Now, mind you, everybody needs money to survive, and everybody needs and wants money just as much as the next person. It's always funny to observe that whenever you look at rich people or people who are financially wealthy, they don't really care about the money anymore because they have it and they feel like they've achieved everything they could have wanted to have achieved. And then it leaves them with this emptiness because when they didn't have the money, they thought that having the money would make them feel better than they do. And then when they get it and they realize that, like it says in the book of Ecclesiastes, all is vanity, there's nothing else really to work for, to work towards. Because when you're at a job and you're saving up to get a 65 Mustang GT 350, just for an example, or whatever car it is, if you don't know vehicles, every day it's annoying because you're thinking to yourself, I want to get that car. I want to save up to get this. But it's the process that keeps you going. But then once you have the money to be able to afford it, the process is eliminated and there's nothing else to be excited about. It's almost like if a family took a trip to a specific destination every year, and every night before the plane left, everybody slept in the living room together, they hung out and they did things and had a grand time. Every year you would be excited for that because you're looking forward towards what you guys do, you know, laughing, talking, whatever. So once the person gets rich and they have as much money as they can, you always notice that that's why a lot, maybe not all, but a lot of people that are financially wealthy, they get to the point where they always end up experimenting with different drugs. They get involved in all kind of foolishness. They end up sleeping around with any and everybody because they're just seeking for pleasure. Because life outside of Christ, that's literally all life is. You're just trying to get by, and you're trying to sneak in as much pleasure as you can whenever and wherever you can, essentially. And it leads them to this mundane existence. And even though they won't admit it, maybe on the good days, but on the bad days when it's them at nighttime and they're going to bed by themselves and they realize it's just me. And even if they have a family, they might feel alone. If they're married, they still might feel alone. If they have kids, they still might feel alone, because it's in those moments that really shows you that money is not everything. People work their whole life to work up and save for a retirement savings plan or whatever it is, and then they drop dead a day after, before, or on the day of their retirement. Nothing wrong with saving up for your retirement, but sometimes you really have to ask yourself, I shouldn't abuse myself, for lack of better terms, losing sleep over it, thinking about it too much, working so hard, working all of these extra hours just to have some money in an account that you can use when you retire, because at the end of the day, tomorrow is promised to nobody. So it doesn't really make sense. And when you look at the world, they put so much emphasis on all of these things and having money as if that's the only way, because to them, you see, their hope is in this world. So in this world, you have to do everything you can do to be able to enjoy it, because in their minds, this is all that there is. Life doesn't go beyond this earth. So to them, they say, since I'm going to be here, I have to do as much as I can, get as much as I can, and make my existence as enjoyable as possible. Now, God's will and desire is that we would prosper and be in good health, even as our soul prospers. So it's not to say that God doesn't care about our physical state, but God is more concerned about our soul than our flesh. As it says in the word, it is better for us to pluck out our eyes and make it into heaven than to have our whole body cast into hell. That does not mean literally stab your eye and take it out. But our eternal salvation is of much more importance. So I say all of that to say this. Don't get caught up in a lot of these videos with people talking about riches and living your best life now, and every day is Friday, and all of these things that we see. If you're not careful, these things will suck you in, and it'll literally have you feeling bad. The Bible itself says, labor not to be rich. So if you're going to work or doing whatever you do to make money with the intent to get rich, to get more money, then already right there, that's a sin. So our heart has to be pure, our heart has to be clean, and we have to be in the right place, because if we're not, then we're not in right standing with God. Don't let these videos deter you from the Lord, because the Lord provides our needs. He gives us everything we need. He will never leave us. He will never forsake us. And there's been many times where I've been guilty of it, where you'll look at a video and you'll see somebody living their best life, and you think to yourself, what would life be like if I could just do this, or if I could have that amount of money to not have to worry about X, Y, or Z. And then when I realized that the only thing that that's doing is making me not have trust in the Lord, because God provides all of my needs and then some. Sufficient to the day is the trouble thereof. Why worry about tomorrow? Because tomorrow is going to have its own deal, its own problems. The only thing we really need is just our daily bread. Nothing more and nothing less. Nothing wrong if the Lord blesses you or somebody you know or whoever it might be with riches, but to whom much is given, much is required. And that person is going to be responsible for a lot more. And there's going to be more stress and more issues that come with it. I believe that we should just accept our lot and not desire riches, not labor to be rich. Because at the end of the day, riches profit absolutely nothing. When you stand before the Lord on the day of judgment, you can't say, well, Lord, I sold the company and I made this amount, and you can have that. He's going to look at you with a blank face, because that means absolutely nothing. So all in all, what I'm saying is this: labor not to be rich. Don't envy the people who have it, because you don't know what some of them did just to get there. And that's a whole different video on its own. Don't envy them, because that could be their God-given lot in life, and God requires a lot more from them than you. And you might not have it, or we might not have it, or I might not have it, because he knows that maybe we couldn't manage it or have it. So don't envy their dainties. Sufficient to the day is the trouble thereof. Trust God, believe God, and God will do the rest. Just be holy and be faithful before him, and God will see you through.